Hey y'all, this is Leslie. If you have tuned into the channel before, welcome back. If this is your first time here, welcome. I just want to share a couple of quick things. Early this morning, like in the middle of the night, I woke up and God showed me a quick vision of a woman, and she was in armor. I couldn't actually see her face, but I could tell that it was a woman because the armor was created in such a way that it was like carved for breasts. So like, to go over her chest, it was a breastplate. And below, because it just came kind of like to here, below that there was a long billowing, flowing royal blue skirt. So it's like she was pregnant, okay? And it came over her belly. And the Lord said that the skirt was blue to signify the fact that she was giving birth to a royal priesthood. What was coming out of her belly was a royal priesthood, that baby. And the Lord began to say, call for the midwife. If you know anything about a midwife, back in Genesis, I'm not sure which chapter, but Shipra and Puah were midwives that Pharaoh told to basically kill the Hebrew babies, and they disobeyed. They obeyed God. They disobeyed Pharaoh and obeyed God, and they did not kill the babies. Because at this point he was Pharaoh was trying to kill all the boys for sure, because he was concerned about the Messiah that was going to be born. He didn't know exactly what was going on, who it was coming from, but he was trying to kill all of the baby boys. Okay. So the Lord said, call for the midwives. He said, call for the women who are experts in birthing children. He also said that it takes a village, just like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to birth a child. And it made me think back to, like when I have 3 children. When I had my first son, my first baby, who was my son, I had my mother, my sister, my mother-in-law, I think my cousin. There were a lot. There were a lot of women there. There were a few in the room, but there were also some in the waiting room. It takes a village, and it made me think about how. It made me think about how women give birth in Africa, for instance, because the Lord said to stand the woman up, and then He said put her on her knees, like to give birth, in a way that is, how do I explain? Here in America, we lay down on our backs and we don't allow gravity to help, bring the baby down, so to speak. We lay down, and from what I understand, it's a bit harder to give birth that way, or it's not as conducive to the process, I guess. Whereas if you've seen in I don't want to say third world countries, but you know what I'm saying? Like in Africa, women will bear down and just stand or get down on their knees, if you will. And even in older times, there were birthing stools that women sat on to let gravity help to birth the child. Okay, God says, get her on her knees, stand her up. He said also, the women, like the midwives, like the village, if you will, the women who are her village, need to lock eyes and need to lock hands. He said to interlock their fingers. He said to draw strength, so that the woman who's giving birth can draw strength from the women who are around her, the women who are supporting her. In this hour, there are many women who are giving birth naturally and in the spiritual, and you need women. Women need to come together to support each other in whatever it is that is being birthed. We have seen like a great influx of women leaders, women in business, women coming forth more in ministry, things of that nature, right? And so God is saying that women need to become closer. We need to stop like the jealousy and the comparison, because we need one another. Only a woman can understand what a woman goes through when she's giving birth. Men don't understand that. Even if they're in the room, even if they're a male doctor, a OBGYN, all that stuff, only a woman can understand the birthing pains. Only a woman can understand the experience of pregnancy. God says that we need to interlock our fingers and our eyes. We need to get close. In order to interlock your fingers with somebody, you have to be close. You have to be standing together. And if you've ever given birth, and if you've ever given birth without an epidural, I've done both. Child, the pain. Okay, the pain is intense. The pain is real. And you need somebody there who's going to be able to offer you emotional support, physical support, medical support, all the things. And so that's why he said call for the midwives, because the midwives are experts in birthing children. You need an expert. You need a woman of wisdom. You need a woman who has been there before, a woman who understands the process, a woman who will guide you through the process. Lady wisdom, that's what I'm hearing right now. You need a woman of wisdom. You can't just have anybody in the room. And even in that, you have to be selective about who you choose to be a part of your village. You can't just let anybody in, because there are women who are very jealous. There are women who don't want to see your promise come to pass. Okay, if Shipra and Puah had not been women of God, if they did not believe in the Lord, they would have easily done what Pharaoh said, and they would have killed all of those Hebrew women's babies. They would have killed all of the promises, right? And so you need a woman, not a woman who is going to be jealous about what you're giving birth to, regardless of no, because this woman has to have given birth. This woman has to be able to understand what it is that you're going through. Sorry, it's getting a little hot. Whew. You have to be connected with a woman who understands. And if you do not know of a woman who understands what you're birthing, understands what you're going through, you need to ask God who you are supposed to be connected to. Just because someone is your mother, just because someone is your sister, just because they are blood relation or family or friend or whatever, does not mean that they can go through this process with you. You have to be very selective. And it even reminds me, during the pandemic, many women had to give birth, and they couldn't do it with everyone that they wanted, so to speak, in the room. There were a lot of women who had to give birth by themselves. God says you have to be very selective, because he's only allowing so many people to be in the midst of this thing. Your village, the people you're connected to, it has to be small. This promise has to be well taken care of. And not everybody has the best intentions for your promise. Not everybody has the best intentions for your baby. It's kind of like when you have a baby and, you let people know, maybe don't touch the baby, wash your hands, things of that nature. But it seems like it's always somebody, even a woman who's given birth before, who don't seem to quite understand, like, don't touch my baby if your hands are not clean. Don't come around my baby if you are sick or your children are sick. You know what I mean? It's nice that you want to see the baby, that you want to love on us or whatever, celebrate. But if you are sick, the best thing that you can do is stay where you at. Don't come over here and possibly infect my newborn, who is very susceptible, and the mother as well, because she's just given birth. She's just been, in some cases, cut wide open. You get what I'm saying? Like, we're open to infection. We think anything could happen. So you need to choose wisdom in this thing, and whomever is coming with you in this process, whoever is a part of the birthing process and a part of the village. The life of your child, the life of your infant, the life of your promise, whatever you're birthing, depends on who is connected to this thing, who is a part of your circle. And then a little bit later, the Lord showed me a vision of a pacifier. And I think that was just kind of like in connection with that, just to remind me something is being birthed. And usually you don't get the pacifiers and things of that nature until you're pregnant. I know some people do things earlier in preparation for the promise, but getting pacifiers is a part of the preparation, right? Getting the items that you will need for a baby. However, the pacifier, I don't know how to explain it, but it looked like a ring. It looked like a pacifier and a ring. It looked like a pacifier, a ring, and a ring pop all at the same time. And I feel like God was saying that the sweet promise, that the promise of not just a baby, but the promise of a marriage is coming. It's all kind of like wrapped in one, like one goes with the other. I feel like even right now he's saying like it's a circle. It's like a circle of life. And like if you are obedient to the process that he is trying to lead you through. Because yes, he does want you to get married first before you have a baby. Like, all of that is going to, because there are some who want to have a baby, and there's nothing wrong with that, but God wants to lead you in such a way that you do the things that coincide with his will for your life. Not just he doesn't want you to do things out of order, because obedience is so greatly, again going back to those midwives, their obedience was connected to the promise. In order for the promise to be birthed, there had to be obedience. God says you have to be very strategic in your obedience. Okay, you have to be able to you got to get married first. And I know that a lot of people want to get married. There are some that don't necessarily want to, but I feel like the Lord is saying, for those that are connected to him, he needs you to get married first. It's more than just the baby. There's a family unit that has to come forward. There's a family unit that has to be established. And God even told me that, Jesus help me. He told me that a baby would be a part of my next union. Now, again, like I said, I have 3 children. They are ages 7, 5, and 3. So I can't necessarily say that, in my mind, I just have to have a baby, but I also told the Lord that I'm going to be obedient to whatever he says. And he told me that a baby is a part of my union. And so whenever I do get married, whenever the Lord says so, I'm going to have another baby. Ooh, help me, Jesus. But I am open to whatever the Lord wants. And he says that it's necessary to solidify the union and the bond and the covenant and the contract that he is making, and that my spouse already knows this, that my spouse is coming with children and I'm coming with children, but there's a child that needs to be born out of this union. So that's for those of you who may already have children, established parenthood, if you will. You're already a mother. You already have children that may be a little bit older, and you may not be necessarily looking forward to the starting over again, but God says that this thing will be good. It's not, don't look at it negatively and like, oh my goodness, going back to the diaper stage and all that type of, don't look at it like this. This will be a blessing. And it even took me back to Psalm 127 verses 3 through 5, which talks about children being an inheritance, and blessed is a man who has like his children are arrows, and blessed is a man who has a quiver full of arrows. So don't think of it in like a negative way. God is saying that your children will be an absolute blessing. The child or children, I don't know how many, but they will be an absolute blessing to the union that you are that's going to take place. I'm trying to see if there's anything else, but yeah, I just feel like he is on me about a baby, about pregnancy, about the importance of who's around you when you deliver, the importance of who is a part of your village, to take care of this child, even to take care of the mother, because the midwife doesn't just take care of the baby, but the midwife also looks after the mother. I think that's it. If he gives me more, I will come back. And yeah, so have a blessed day. Hey, this is Leslie. Just a quick little video. I feel like I forgot to say this. When I was talking before, I was saying that the woman that I saw in the vision was wearing a breastplate. I believe this is because she is a warrior, and she's been warned for this promise. There's somebody who's been warned for the promise of their child, somebody who's been warned for the promise of their union, but more so even the promise of the child. I feel like this woman has been through a spiritual battle to be able to have this child, and that's why it's so imperative that she is very cognizant of the village and those that she has around her when this child is being born, because I feel like the enemy has been fighting her throughout her entire pregnancy. Just to get pregnant was a battle, and she's clothed in this armor because she's been fighting throughout this whole thing. I feel like the Lord is saying, woman of God, do not stop fighting. Continue to fight even as you're birthing the promise. Don't think that just because now it's time to go into labor and to deliver, that your battle is done. Let me say this, for my own first pregnancy, it was a battle just to get pregnant. It took me a while to get pregnant, and I was trying. Okay, I was trying hard. I was doing a lot of what is it called when you're keeping track of your cycle, when you making sure that I was having sex on the days that I was most fertile, fertility tracking and all that type of stuff, and I still didn't get pregnant. Now, it took like 2 years, and I know to some that may not seem like a long time, but to me, in the midst, because even now it's like, girl, that really wasn't that long. However, it was like a spiritual thing. It was like a battle. And so when it finally happened, because God had been showing me the promise of this child before I even got married, okay, he was showing me a little boy through visions. And so I was thinking that it was going to happen right away, and it took 2 years. And again, that's not a long time in the grand scheme of things, but I know that there was a battle to get to this baby, okay? There's a woman who also was going through a battle just to get pregnant, and her battle may have been even longer. She may have endured even more. She may have gone through fertility treatments. She may have gone through IVF, all the things, right? But even as you are going into labor, your battle is still not done. That's why this woman was, I really feel like she was fighting for her promise. Continue to fight for your promise. Continue to be vigilant and sober and alert and aware, because the enemy will even try to take your child out in the womb. Even when you, and it's very unfortunate, but there are women who have gone as far as going through the entire pregnancy, coming all the way full term, right, only to have their child pass away during the laboring process, only to have the child pass away right after the laboring process. God says continue to basically stay on the front lines. I feel like this woman was a woman warrior who was pregnant, but she was continually fighting for her promise to be born. And even after, okay, continue to war in prayer over your baby. Continue to be aware of what you're putting in your body, who's around you. When I got to the labor part, right, when it was time to go into labor, my, what is it called? My sack, the water sack, whatever it's called, it did not break. And it actually didn't break for any of my children. They had to break my water for all 3 of my children. However, with my son, the first baby, some meconium, some poop, whatever you want to call it, it got into, I guess, out of him and into the sack. And so that was a problem. And they had to hurry up and get him out before he ended up like ingesting some of that. And I know that there are even children who have had the the cord. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. I can't say it correctly. The umbilical cord wrapped around their throat. So you think that you're about to have a baby, but somehow the baby gets twisted. I mean, you think that you're about to give birth to a healthy, live baby, and somehow the cord gets wrapped around that baby's throat, and you've gone through this whole process only to give birth to a stillborn child, or something you know what I'm saying? Stay on the front line. Stay armored up. Continue to pray and fight for your promise. Even after this child gets here, continue to cover this child in prayer, because the enemy has a way of, the enemy knows what God has planned for, not everything, but he sees the purpose, he sees the promise, he sees the light that is coming out of you, out of that child. He knows that God has great plans for your child and your child's destiny, and he wants to do anything that he can to take this child out. So continue to stay on the front lines for your child, for your entire birthing process, for your village, for after the baby is born. Pray for their health. Pray even over the vaccines and things that your child will be given after they're born, right? Immediately after they're born, and then in the days to come. Pray even for the circumcision process, that nothing goes awry with that there's no incidents or accidents, things of that nature. Pray for the hospital as a whole, even from the doctor all the way down to the people who are cleaning in that house. Do you understand what I'm saying? Cover the entire journey. Just cover the entire journey. You have not gone through 9 months of pregnancy, you have not gone through the warfare and the hell that you've endured just to get to this promise, just to be able to carry the promise. Because some of you have gone through health issues, thinking that, oh, the baby is going to pass away in the womb. Gestational diabetes, preeclampsia. What's the one? I can't think of what it's called. But when some women have where they're what's the thing called that's inside of you that feeds the baby? Your placenta previa, or whatever it's called, when it starts to detach, right? And so then you won't be able to, be able to feed your baby. There's a host of things that can go wrong, right? And I'm praying that none of it does. But what I'm saying is cover that child, cover that pregnancy, cover the birth, the afterbirth, the whole process, postpartum, all of it. Cover the entire process. Okay, that's it.